why did you choose to come to Antarctica? And why is this a good working environment for you? Of all the places that you could be in, why this place?
Well, I think people who come here are to a great extent wanderers, and it isn't so much a choice for us, it's kind of our inner being, where we work our 9-to-5 job in the US for who knows how long, and it just doesn't suit us, and it becomes more and more obvious, not that we don't have the skills to do the job there, but that lifestyle just doesn't suit us. And I found out belatedly, kind of through reflecting back on my life, that from time to time I needed to do something like this, and Antarctica just happens to be one of the places that I can do it, where like for instance, when I first graduated from college way back when in art, I wound up going into the Peace Corps for 3 years, and at first I thought, oh, that's going to be it. I'm going to see a different part of the world and learn things about myself, and etc. And then seemed like a pattern in my life where every couple years I would do something like that, and medical school probably took up one of those times. But after medical school I worked for 2 years at a clinic in an outer ring suburb of Minneapolis, and felt like I was withering inside, and starting to get more and more irritable, and it was great for a skill level, but wound up leaving that job and heading to New Zealand to work for 13 months, and then coming back. And at first I thought I'd work a locums position until I found a position where I really fit in, and I could do the 9-to-5, or with doctor's hours. I mean, that's 90 some hours per week when you do call, and etc. But just realized that I just don't fit that, and so looked for another position where it would take me away, and heard about Antarctica and got in touch with them, and worked well. I like dropping myself down the rabbit hole, and seeing how I react and challenging my skills that way, because in positions like South Pole Station or Palmer Station, the learning curve goes way up. You have all these instruments that typically I would have nothing to do with as a doctor, when it comes to drawing blood, running the blood, culturing things, and so one learns a whole new set of skills, and I just thrive on that, and meets fascinating people from all around the world, and they have that wanderer in them too. So yeah, so you meet people who are like you in that respect as well, so they understand that your goal isn't to go to Disney World, you know. It's
Have you ever been to Disney World?
No.
Neither have I.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, tell me a little bit about, you've been to South Pole Station as well, right?
Correct.
What's that like?
I'm glad that I went there first. It is a station that I think it's 6,500 square feet. It's up one level on pylons, and then that pylon supports 2 levels of buildings, and there's wings off that level that are sleeping quarters, and then the main level has the medical facility, greenhouse, the galley where people gather to socialize and eat, music room, gym, and that whole station sits on a plateau of ice and snow that's up 9,300 feet. And you know, as far as what it's like, I could go into great detail. You get off the plane and it's like you're 3 years old, because you're dressed in all this extreme cold weather gear, and you're not used to it, and you got your snow goggles on, and they're fogging up, and so you get off and you're like this because you're also oxygen deprived. Your pulse ox on your finger, typically, like if I did it right here at sea level, it would be 99 or 100% for someone who's normal. There it's 88 or 89%, which Medicare gives you oxygen for if you live that way in the US. And so you're oxygen deprived, so you're moving really slowly, and it's like being 3 years old again, you know, and you go out into this total plain of ice and snow. It's just gradations of white. The sky oftentimes isn't blue, and you walk into the building, and it's fascinating, the different science people who are there, and they give lectures once per week, and you meet, you know, you sit down in the galley next to somebody to eat, and you know, he's a 67-year-old mountain climber who was a Navy SEAL, and just tells you the most fascinating stories, you know. And anybody that you sit next to, you know, well, I'm boring because I only rode my bicycle across Africa. I didn't ride a horse, you know. And everybody is fascinating. There aren't scents there unless it's like your hair soap or something. There's no greenery or flora unless you look inside the hothouse where they're growing lettuce or something. So there's definitely sensory deprivation, and you realize the full extent of that when you actually get out into the real world, and you're kind of your senses are assaulted, you know, like the smells are so powerful when you get back. You know, just a regular tree, you know, a pine tree or something that you barely notice otherwise. You just, it's incredible. But yeah, it was fascinating. There was a routine there. The way that it worked for me is there were lots of events, probably one per week, where someone needed a medical evacuation or a transport out there. So that and the altitude illness and taking care of the routine upper respiratory infections, that kept me pretty busy. And by the end, I was ready to go. By the end, it felt like prison. You know, the routine had gotten enough where, you know, I always thought, oh, I'd do well in prison. I'd read books, and I'd watch movies, and I'd exercise. Well, I wouldn't do well in prison.
You figured that out, didn't you? Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask you. Yeah, would you go back there?
I would. I don't know that I'd go back soon because the sleep deprivation got pretty severe, especially towards the end with all the extra medical. And the key thing too is I think I'd make this lifestyle more episodic as I age, just because people that you meet typically are wanderers. There are many of them who don't even have a house, you know. They have a storage unit where they keep their stuff. And so they may keep in touch by email or a phone call, but it's not the type of getting to know them and becoming more a part of their life that I'm used to when it comes to relationships. So that's where I don't think I'd make it a permanent part of the lifestyle, but for right now, it's pretty cool. So. Pole had maximum 263 people when I was there, so you could sit down with different people every day of the week. Palmer has, what do we have, 28 here?
Yeah, 28.
Yeah. So you don't have as much a variety, but you do get to know people here a little bit better. But again, they're wanderers, and there are people where, you know, they consider it themselves being close to someone when they call them 3 times per year, you know, versus, you know, that's not what I would have for a goal ultimately in the future. Yeah. Sure. But it is fascinating getting to know people here, and there are some very talented people, and the station is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, the glacier on one side, the mountains on the other, the sea, the fact that there are whales coming in the summer. And, yeah, I have no regret about coming here.
Good. Yeah, what's your favorite part of it so far?
I think walking outside each day, and it's like I feel like I'm in a movie. You know, there's like I'm watching myself in a movie because it's so surreal. You know, you walk outside and you hear thunder and the glacier calves, and then there's, you know, snow and ice, or there's a seal sitting on a slab of ice, you know, and another one's had a baby, and, you know, here's a Gentoo penguin, and yeah, it's fascinating. Great place.